Hello, and welcome to SETI Live. I'm your host, Beth Johnson, Communications Specialist here at the SETI Institute. Thank you to all of our viewers from around the world for joining us. Please let us know where you are watching from. Joining me today are author and book designer Rebecca Demarest and astronomer and SETI research scientist Paul Dalba. Welcome to you both. Thank you as well for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Paul, we are here to talk about Exotopia. Will you please tell us what Exotopia is?
Absolutely. So Exotopia is a really unique storytelling experience. So it's a science fiction narrative, and we invite everyone as part of the program to take imaginary journeys to actual exoplanetary systems that exist in our galaxy. And over the course of about 30 days, one story released per day, you get to experience a really interesting story told through the eyes of the people who would take this journey to this exoplanet system. Exotopia kind of mixes art, it mixes artificial intelligence in the case of this upcoming.
Uh-oh, Paul, I can't hear you.
I think you clipped out.
No, I can't hear you. Oh no. Yeah, I don't know what happened. You were fine, and then all of a sudden it just went quiet.
What about now? Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yeah.
There you are.
Any better right now? Better? Back?
You're
Yeah.
back.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay,
you're back.
good. So sorry about that. Technology, we still haven't gotten it figured out so far. Okay, so I was describing Exotopia. It's a really interesting storytelling experience where you get to take imaginary voyages to actual exoplanets that are really existing in our galaxy. It was created by Scott Kildill, who's an artist who's worked kind of at the intersection of art and technology and education, previously an artist with the SETI Institute. And it's a really fun way to experience a sci-fi story with real science injected.
So, Rebecca, you are working obviously on the art side of this project. How did you get involved?
So I actually know some of the other writers who've been participating in the project. And when the call went out for more people to join the project, I was like, that sounds like an immense amount of fun. Please, 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 I'll beg whatever I need to do to get on the project because this sounds amazing. And lo and behold, I begged enough apparently, and I get to participate.
Fantastic. It sounds like such a fun thing to be working on. Let's talk a little bit about what this next voyage is. We've done a couple already, and we're going to another planet. This planet is TOI, which is Test Object of Interest, 1452b. So, Paul, tell us about this planet. What do we know about it?
Yes, so this is an exoplanet that was discovered by TESS, as you heard in the name, which is a NASA mission right now that is searching for exoplanets in our galaxy. This planet is about 100 light years away, so still very far, but on an astronomical scale, it's kind of in our backyard. It's not so far away. What was really interesting about this planet is that it orbits a red dwarf star. So a red star, a lot less energy than our sun, but what's really curious is it orbits from within the habitable zone of this star. Now, the habitable zone is a region around the star where temperatures are just right, not too hot, not too cold, just right for liquid water to possibly exist on the surface of this planet if it also has an atmosphere. And so that immediately makes this a really curious planet as far as the search for life goes. So astronomers discovered this planet via the TESS data. And after that, they went about studying it, trying to learn more about it, to learn how big the planet is, how massive it is, how much stuff it has, and then trying to just make a determination of what the planet could be made of. This is where it got kind of mysterious. So by using the size of the planet and how massive it is, there was kind of a degeneracy. There were two possible solutions for what the nature of this planet could be. It could either be a water world planet, which is really exciting. I'm talking about a planet that is made by 20 to 30% of its mass is water. So think of a very large global ocean. Or it could be a little more like a Earth-like planet. We call it a terrestrial world, but it could have a lot of hydrogen and helium around it as an atmosphere. Now, in either case, these planets would have an atmosphere that would likely have clouds. So although we're very likely going to try to understand this planet more with something like the JWST telescope, it's likely that it's going to be hard to really get the full nature of this planet nailed down from far away. And I think that's where some of the fun comes in with Exotopia and the story about this planet.
So, speaking of the story, Rebecca, what can you tell us? What can you share with us that isn't giving away everything about how you've interpreted some of the science for the story that you're working on?
Absolutely. So when I heard Mystery Planet and Kind of Unstable Star, I was like, can I do that one, please? This sounds like the perfect planet for me. Because it gives you a lot of freedom and it has like a lot of tension baked into it already. Like, other planets that we may know more about, I don't have as much room to play in the science. So picking the TOI 1452b, which the crew in this adventure calls the toy box, because it's a play off of the TOIB. I sometimes think I'm clever, but I really loved that I would have to have the crew at the planet. They would have to be there. They'd have to go down in the planet to really understand what was happening. And so it gives just so much narrative room and potential when you have a ship in orbit. You've got an away team that has to go down to the surface of the planet. You've got all sorts of problems that can commence. You've got a sun that you can't really predict how it's going to behave. And so it tickled all of the right fancies for me in terms of trying to get it put together. The science was great because every time I would come to sort of a block, I'd be, well, what's the science going on right here? And I could go back to it, and there were options that I could pick from as to what was going to be happening. And I could really fine tune and mold it to give us a really tense situation.
Okay, I want to see if we can pick your brain a little bit more and learn more about that. But first, I want to welcome in people from where they're watching from. So, welcome to everybody. Let's see, we have New Jersey, British Columbia, California, lots more British Columbia, Spain, Pennsylvania. I believe that is Sweden. It's the when you guys send me the little flags, I can't see them very well on my monitor. There's a friend of mine from Atlanta, Australia, Tunisia, Michigan, the UK. Wow, more Australia, South Carolina, New Jersey, Wales. Nigeria, Florida. Wow. Thank you everybody for tuning in from all over the place. Thank you so much. And again, more from the UK. So fabulous. Thank you everybody for being here. And then, so Paul, what are people going to learn to discover during this expedition if they participate in it?
Yeah, well, you'll get a firsthand look of what this exoplanet might actually be like. As Rebecca mentioned, it's one of these places that you kind of have to go to understand what the nature of the planet might actually be. So what you learn from this is you get a feel of what an exoplanet environment might really be like. We can imagine our Earth environment pretty well because we live here all the time. And what's interesting is nowadays we can actually do a better job imagining what Mars might be like because we constantly have pictures coming back from Mars and even other bodies in our solar system that have been studied really intensely or even had spacecraft land on the surface. But with an exoplanet, that's still beyond the reach of our current reality. So for that, we rely on storytelling and then mixed with actual true science. So it's not just an interesting and really compelling story. It actually takes the next step of saying, based on what we know from telescopes that what we use right now, what is this world going to be like? And that's what you get to experience.
Rebecca, can you give us any hints about the story itself? Like, again, I don't want to spoiler anything for anybody, but
It's
can you
all
maybe
good.
talk
Yeah.
about your writing process or any of the hints about the story coming up?
Sure. I'll talk a little bit about the process first, because I think that's one of the most fun things about this adventure, because we have 4 different crew members that you could possibly be inhabiting during this adventure. And every day you're getting another snippet of an update of what's happening to them. 2 of them are on the away mission, 2 of them stay on the ship, one of them's the captain. So you might be making all the decisions. But with the storytelling process itself, trying to map these 4 experiences and then variations within those experiences became a bit more of a task than I was expecting. I sent Jasmine some pictures, if you wouldn't mind starting with the number 1. I have this great big mirror in my house, and I just went to town with whiteboard markers one day trying to just figure out what was happening. I'm sure you can read some of the words there. A lot of those changed when I actually got into the process of writing. The little runes are things, that's where I was figuring like I could do a big branch there. The skulls are pretty self-explanatory. They were written by 3 or 4 different people because I had my friends over and we were all up there on the board making notes. If you go to the next couple, they're just like close-ups of some of the areas. So it's like freaking out. There's a lot of freaking out that happens in the story. It's just trying to figure out where I could branch things and where we could have lots of opportunity for variation. Where in the story do people have choices that they have to make? And so it was a lot of fun trying to figure out how all these 4 stories interwove. I will say, for those of you who may have done previous expeditions, if your character dies, which is a distinct possibility, don't stop reading because there is after death sequences. So make sure you keep going with it. If your character dies, I wanted to make sure you got the full 30-day experience. I really enjoy them. All of my beta readers that have read it have been like, this is the creepiest thing I've read. So just like go with it. It's great. As for the content in the stories, I'm not going to spoil too much. I will say I picked Waterworld. You get that right up front. I mean, how can you not pick Waterworld when you're given the opportunity?
Right.
So I went full on Waterworld. The scientists are constantly making observations about what's going on. All of the observations that are being made by the Marine that's there helping to protect the away team, by the scientist on the ground, by the scientist in the air. All of this I pulled from science, like actual science. I took a lot of inspiration from Proto-Earth. So there's the way they talk about before we had trees and everything that came before trees and how that looked. A lot of that is sort of baked into it. And then I just picked a totally different evolutionary path for the planet in terms of creatures. So there's maybe some hints. If you rewatch this, you know, you might see some hints as to what's going on. Just, you know, excuse me, I need to take a drink.
Especially when you're talking about a water world. I mean, it gets to you.
It does. It really, really does. But there's lots of tension. All 4 of the character paths have their own distinct arcs. They all have very distinct jobs to do and very distinct belief sets. So no matter who you get ending up with, do ping us if you have severe thalassophobia, because there is one path I don't want to put you on. I'm just going to put that out there.
Okay, everybody keep that in mind. I'm going to welcome in a few more. We've got some more from Turkey and Poland coming in. So some more to the Europe, Asia side of things. Very nice. Thank you for joining us. And Sweden. Okay, I got the flag right. Thank you. All right. Let's see. One of the things that is unusual about the Exotopia project is that we're using AI in it, obviously. Paul, can you tell us a little bit about how we're using AI in Exotopia?
Yeah, so in this case, we're using AI to generate images that illustrate the story that go along with everything else. So AI-generated images are part of this ongoing AI revolution that's happening that you see all over the news and you can see all over the internet. So in this case, you're able to take an AI image generator, and what you give to that generator is just a handful of words, just text. Say you wanted to see something that was like a landscape, a desolate landscape, a stormy landscape with the color blue. You would pass those images into the AI generator. It would then use various different techniques, things called neural networks you may have heard of, and it uses that to create an actual, a lifelike image based on the words that you have passed in. And sometimes those are very realistic. And other times they're maybe a little bit more abstract, but that plays into the storytelling of a journey to an exoplanet world quite perfectly. Sometimes it's a little alien, sometimes it feels very close to home. And so that's all being intertwined into the storytelling process to add some imagery and to bring it to life a little bit more.
Rebecca, how does the AI help you? Have you taken the time to generate any images for yourself, just as part of your planning process, or what are your expectations of using it for moving the story along?
So Scott and I played a lot with the AI towards the beginning, and really experimenting with what we could get out of it. Especially around the ship, we spent days going back and forth on you're going to get one image of the ship, but no, it has to be the right image of the ship. And so trying to find the right words. I will say the funniest one we ended up pulling up was at the very beginning. They talk about how they just overprinted chocolate mousse one day for the ship crew for food. And when Scott put that into the generator, that was a really abstract mess of chocolate mousse covering an entire starship, and it was very odd. So sometimes the AI just does not go in the direction you expect it to. But
this is true.
Right? It's super fun because we'll feed in a short description I have, and a paragraph can only give you the impression of so many things. You can only have 3 or 4 things that you actually get to describe in that paragraph. And so when you have the AI and you feed that in, you see all this detail from around it, and you can be like, oh, that's perfect, or maybe not quite that, or at times that's a much better way to describe the thing, so let me fix my description, which has happened on occasion. I always like working with images in my stories, and working with illustrators and AI or people and the different perspectives they have on what's happening, because it is definitely a reciprocal cycle. It feeds back in, and oh boy, howdy, does it take skill to steer a AI image generator in the right direction.
This is true. I am one of those people who is not blessed with any sort of drawing ability whatsoever. I can kind of draw maybe a stick figure and daisies. Daisies I'm really, really good at. So when AI kind of came out, I thought, well, this might be fun to do some stuff. And so I started, generating images of characters that I was working with. And then one day someone said in a chat that they saw a Jurassic Park themed 4-wheel drive in the parking lot of the coffee shop they were at, and now they were imagining velociraptors disguised as people in the coffee shop, and I went, that is prime AI generated artwork right there. And just took what they said and threw it in, and we had a lot of fun with it. So I can see how when you're working on a story, that becomes very much I've described the thing, but what does the thing look like? What else am I missing? So I think this is a fun opportunity to use sort of these new AI generated artwork. If you guys have questions, those of you who are watching about this project, the expedition, the planet, the process, please feel free to ask those in chat. We will do our best to get to them. I've seen a couple of them come in. So before we kind of get to that, Paul, how can people be involved? Where do people go to get involved in this project, and what does that involvement look like?
I think the first place to go is just to start with the Exotopia website. And so I think someone will drop that into the chat link there. So definitely click that. Have a look around the website. It explains how everything got started. It explains the process. From there, you're able to purchase a ticket to go on this current journey. And you'll be able to purchase tickets to go on future journeys when they're set up as well. For this current journey to TOI 1452, I believe tickets are on sale until mid-April, April 17th or so. And when you have a ticket, eventually the journey will begin. We'll depart. We'll start on our way, and you'll begin receiving story updates once per day. And I believe you can illustrate your own adventure too, so you can play around with AI-generated images as well.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we've got a few questions coming in, so I think I'm gonna pull some of these up. That's okay. We're gonna start with Stephen and say asking. Okay, for some reason my banners are not working. There we go. Could you describe the AI technology that you're using? Do we know is there a specific AI generator that we're using, or can you pretty much use anything?
Let's see. I think it might elude me the exact type that Scott has had us using for this one so far. Rebecca, do you happen to know?
I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it is baked into the experience. So you'll be using an AI generator that we have specifically linked to the stories. So you won't have to go find your own generator or anything like that. It's all going to be right there with you. Scott's been working hard on trying to make sure it's all integrated properly, so that when you do start off, you can just dive right into that. You should be able to just put in a description. You can pull the description straight from what you're seeing in your text, or you can start describing your own and like, okay, I want to see what happens if they turn around and they're looking at this other thing. So you'll have a lot of freedom in terms of being able to illustrate it. And I want to see those, so please post them to social media.
It looks like I've just gotten a message in the background that says they are using the Eden AI toolkit. And so you should be able to play with the AI rendering and putting in your own prompts once you're in on the project. So there you go. It is Eden AI for you, Stephen. All right. Let's see. This is another good question, kind of an opinion one. Surely AI generated images are still a representation of what a human would think to a degree, because AI is inputted by humans. Does that impact how does that impact what you expect to see? Has anything come for you that's sort of distinctly out of the box, or has it pretty much been what your expectations are going in?
There's been some real weird stuff that comes out because it's sampling from a broad range of stuff that includes surrealists. So every once in a while, it spits out something entirely unexpected. And I will say that the focus of the story are humans. So it is humans in an unhuman place. We can guess pretty accurately what it might look like if these conditions are met on the planet, because the science is still going to hold up. The colors are still going to refract in a certain way through the atmosphere. The gravity is still going to be a certain thing. What we don't necessarily know is how it's seeded in terms of biology. So that could be totally way off. But we do know that in very different places on the continents, we got very similar evolutionary strides. So we're making an educated guess, and yeah, it's all still going to be influenced by what we think of from humanity and our history, but we're also applying it to a new situation and extrapolating. So we're getting extrapolation with a couple of weirdness thrown in, and you can push the AI towards the weirder. You can push it as far outside your comfort zone as you want.
I'll toss in there that AI has a really interesting ability to pick up on patterns that maybe aren't so easy to be recognized by humans. This is somehow we use AI in scientific research to try to understand patterns that we can't pick up on. So allowing AI to sort of run wild, so to speak, with imagery might allow it to see something or find connections in ways that we didn't necessarily recognize. And yes, that'll be based in our experience and what we see, but it might be just new and strange enough to fit this situation quite well.
So along the same lines, and Paul, maybe you can take this one. Do you think that we could use AI to really get outside the box and show something like a silica life form?
Oh, I think we could. Eventually we are just going to be working with unknown unknowns, and so it's going to be difficult to imagine something so far out of our experience. But yeah, I think you probably could. I think you could, if you could feed your AI, your training kit, so to speak, for the AI. If you could train it on a lot of images of things you might think might be like silica-based life forms, or things that just might be related, I'm optimistic in the sense that you could use it to perhaps imagine something that is beyond our imagination.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did stick closer to what we know as sort of carbon-based forms, mainly because getting too far out the box in this very constrained format would be really difficult because they don't have enough space to really get into how those life forms even communicate, or how, like, they could be on totally different wavelengths, literally. So I focused on something familiar enough in form that we can use our language as metaphors to describe what it looks like, how it's acting, but just different enough that communicating is very difficult. So it was a balance of how weird can I push it versus how much space do I have, which is not a lot. So I had to like pack it in there.
All right, fantastic. I think I've got sort of one last question, and this is kind of an important one. How much is a ticket, and what does this cover for people?
Yeah, tickets are $19, and that covers the full experience. That gets you access to generating your own imagery. That gets you access to the full story, and that takes you to the toy box, so to speak.
Sort of how that's going to work on a day-to-day basis is every day you get a short snippet update of your story as it's pushing along. And those updates run between like 120 and 210 words-ish every day. However, if you can't check it every day, you can catch up. So this isn't like if you forget to check a day, you miss out. Now you can catch up towards the end. If you forgot you bought the ticket, that's okay. Or wait to the end, but your story will actually be different than everybody else's story because there's lots of branches. There's each character has at least 3 different ways their story can end. And so you'll get a story that is distinctly different from somebody else's. You know, there'll be some spots where you overlap, of course, because I didn't write 300 stories, but you will at least have something that is unique to you and to your character's journey.
So we're at the end of our half an hour, but I have one last question I want to ask each of you from your side of the sci art perspective. So Paul, how is art, this combination, how is that benefiting science? What's the benefit to science of involving artists in the work?
I think what it helps, what artists help scientists to do is perhaps step beyond the bounds of the scientific method a little bit. It allows you to envision the next theory that you can possibly go out and try to test. So an artist will see the same information presented. It'll see everything we've been able to learn about this planetary system, for instance, and an artist can look at that and perhaps come up with alternate ideas or broader, more rich paths for us to explore more information of the system. And then hopefully science can take that and run with those theories to try to determine which ones might be true, which ones might not be.
And Rebecca, a similar question to you. How is working directly with scientists and their science affecting your writing and what your ideas are?
Oh, in the best ways. Whenever I have writer's block, I go to science. I follow the science subreddits on Reddit because the stuff that comes out is insane. I mean, seriously, you sit down and you look at some of these studies and results and you're going, how on earth, literally, how did Earth make this happen? And when you start asking questions, that's when you start getting stories. And that's what I really love about sci-fi is it's grounded in reality. There are real things at the basis of what we're talking about. I use some quantum technology in my story, and that's backed up by actual quantum science. Like that's something that could eventually get. And it's just so much fun. There's a moment in the story where not too much of a spoiler, but they're firing a laser gun at the bottom of the ocean. And I went, what would happen? because I don't know. I don't know what would happen. It just so happens that the company I work for has a lot of laser technicians and scientists. And I went to the optics team and I said, hey guys, what would happen? And they went, huh, let me get back to you on that. And 24 hours later, the entire team, having debated it rigorously, came back to me with the result, which I'm just not going to say. But it's those moments of collaboration that just make it delightful and make it so much more real when you're reading it. Because if you have all those details and you have the reality, it just reads so much better.
It sounds like a fun, fascinating time. If you're interested, again, the website is exotopia.xyz. You can find the links on our website, in the chat, wherever you would like to. The ticket prices are $19. The next experience that involves this particular planet, I believe, starts April 19th. Is that what we said? Ticket sales close April 17th. A portion of the ticket price also benefits the SETI Institute. So that is awesome, of course. And if you would like to support the Institute even further, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. You can go to seti.org/give now and make a donation to support both our science and these outreach projects that we have, like Exotopia, like SETI Live. All of these things are basically because of you. So again, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Paul and Rebecca, for joining me today. Thank you to Hasmin and Rebecca and Frank in the background, who have been being so helpful back there. So thank you. And everybody, come join the fun, come join the shenanigans, and make sure you tag SETI Institute if you participate and you go off and do some of that AI generated artwork. We would love to see them. So thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the week.